This video is proudly sponsored by Gamersgate. Download games anytime, anywhere. Visit Gamersgate.com.
Welcome to Elder Geeks Elder Speaks. Today is Friday, June 15th, 2012. My name is Randy Yasenchak. I'm the owner and editor of ElderGeek.com. Happy Friday, everybody. I almost forgot that today actually was Friday. I looked at my computer to see the date to read off at the intro to the show, and holy crap, I can't believe it. So officially, this is going to be the last show of the week. I'm kind of changing up the way that I'm doing the show. Before, I was actually trying to record like at about 5 in the evening, and I was trying to get the show up by midnight, but I can't do that anymore based on my current personal schedule. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to record just whenever I can, and then just kind of posting it sometime probably in the early morning of the day that the actual show goes on. So if there's a little bit of, wonkiness as to when episodes go up and everything, that's going to be why. But before I actually go into, there's actually not going to be any news today. Because today's actually going to be a viewer mail day. And to give everybody a little bit of a site update, because you guys are actually here every day, I kind of think it'd be nice to give you guys some cool privy information. I just wrote out the Max Payne 3 video review script. I just did the script for it. I captured a whole bunch of footage. I'm going to be piecing together that video review sometime within the next day or so. So you're going to be seeing the Max Payne video review soon. After that, I'm going to be working on the headphones hardware review that I've been putting off for entirely too long, and the headphones are pretty badass. And then after that, I'm going to be doing the Krater video review as well. Now, aside from all of that, a few days ago, I actually recorded the audio for ElderGeek.com's favorite games of E3 2012, and Mott's is actually putting that video together. So you will hopefully be seeing the video for that in the next day or two, hopefully. So going to be just a ton of non-Elder Speak videos coming to the ElderGeek.com channel. So pay attention to those, and I hope you enjoy them when they actually do come out. But like I said, today's actually just going to be viewer mail day. I got 2 letters. I kind of want to go through them real quickly. First one is from Sean. And Sean, by the way, if you're actually paying attention to this, I'm really sorry. I actually thought I had answered this question once before, because I know I got an email similar to this already. It might have been you, and I totally meant to actually put it on the show. But, fit hit the shan with me personally. So here we go. Sean writes, "Dear Randy, I'd like to hear your opinion on the latest Stronghold title, Stronghold 3. I'm not sure if you're a fan, but I certainly was, and I bought the title on day one. The game was a broken mess when it released, and there were enough bi-weekly patches leading all the way up to the new Gold Edition, which we all got upgraded to. Guess that's something. The thing is, this version of the game is still rather broken with crippling bugs and model glitches, not to mention a lack of skirmish mode. Now, this would be bearable if I hadn't read this on Firefly's official forum." And Firefly allegedly writes, I'm saying allegedly because I haven't been on the forum board to read this. "I'm afraid the feature will not be available. Do many other games offer unlimited building/troops in multiplayer? This is the final patch for Stronghold 3. Now, here's my question. How do you feel about game companies abandoning obviously unfinished games after full release? I know, having paid the full £30, which is..." He writes $50, but I just checked the conversion and it's about $47, but that's splitting hairs. But anyway, I feel very cheated. Your fan, Sean. Sean, I don't blame you, man. You should feel cheated. It sucks when game developers actually abandon games when they're a little bit broken. It sucks even harder that they release games that are unfinished in the first place just because they have a deadline to make, or because they want to make back some of their investment money. But no, there is no excuse for that kind of thing. You asked the question of, am I a Stronghold fan? I played the original Stronghold like 10,000 years ago, but I never got around to doing Stronghold 2. And Stronghold 3 was just one of those games I never got around the time to play. Personally, if I were you, Sean, and anybody out there that is facing this issue, you have several options that you can explore as a consumer, and this goes with any product that you buy. First things first, I would actually go to the store that you bought the game from and see if you can get your money back from there. If you bought it from Amazon, Amazon actually has a really good return policy, and big thumbs up from that. They get a huge thumbs up from me. Amazon is ridiculous about their return policies. They want to keep their people as happy as possible. They might not return it. If you bought it from Steam, sorry to say, but you're probably shit out of luck. If you bought it from a company like Gamersgate, I'm not speaking on behalf of Gamersgate by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that they are also very responsive with their customers. They have pretty awesome customer service, and they actually answer email. So I would hit them up if you bought it from Gamersgate. Trying to think of where else you actually might have got it from. Since you're UK, I really don't know if you actually bought it from a store, but if you bought it from a store, maybe try to actually return the physical copy. But if you can't return it to wherever you purchased it from, I would honestly try to demand a refund from the developer. And if they say, no, sorry, we won't do it, then chalk that up as a lesson learned for a developer to just kind of avoid. You know, it's kind of sad to say, especially it sounds like you were a fan of the series, and it sucks when series that you enjoy kind of go that way. So I'm really sorry, man, to hear that. It sucks. Like I said, I think that the bigger problem is not the fact that they won't continue to patch it. I think the bigger problem is the fact that it was released as a product that needed to be patched that badly in the first place. I always try to support companies that continually patch after launch. And this is actually just kind of saying with Fat Shark's Krater, they launched and they know that there's some bugs with it, but they're reacting as quickly as they can. Every time I start up the game, they seem to have fixed something else, which is really good for a launch game. Normally when you get a launch patch, it doesn't happen for like a couple of days afterwards. But sorry Sean, I don't know what else really to say. I would just try to get my money back and spend it elsewhere. But thanks for the email, man. Really appreciate it. And again, I'm sorry if you sent that email before and I didn't respond to it until now. Christian writes, Dear Randy, over the last few years in video games, developers have decided to create a cheesy and cliche story with no thought being put into it. The success of games such as Call of Duty, Battlefield, and even Skyrim is one of the reasons why developers see story, characters, and setting as a last thought. I see people saying that the stories in these games are great and have even won awards for them, yet when I play them, I wasn't impressed. I might be being too critical as I love writing, but many plots are just too paper thin now. However, games such as Deus Ex, Human Revolution, the Mass Effect series, and the Witcher games are some of the best made yet, don't get the same recognition as the games with paper thin story. Isn't the plot that drives people forward to complete a game? I know there are much more factors to that, such as gameplay, but I see games such as Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Skyrim getting perfect scores, yet shouldn't the score count everything in the game? If one thing in the game is bad, shouldn't it shouldn't get the perfect game label. Deus Ex Human Revolution has one of the deepest plots in a game in the last 5 years, mixing in deep problems that humanity will face, and including the conspiracy theory over the Illuminati. My question is, do you think games should focus more on the story rather than gameplay so that we get a much more rich and detailed experience? Love to hear your thoughts on this. Kind regards, Chris. Chris, you know what's funny? A long time ago when I was a naive young lad, one of the many things that I wanted to be when I grew up was actually to be a video game writer for stories. Because at the time, Final Fantasy was still in its infancy, and I kind of thought that, hey, video game storylines are only going to get better from here, and I want to write them. And of course, that never panned out. But I know what you mean, man. It does suck when games do have paper-thin storylines. Games like... I wouldn't bundle Skyrim and Call of Duty and Battlefield together. I would certainly bundle Call of Duty and Battlefield together because they're both shooters and you know, come on, those are your blockbuster kind of games, and blockbuster movies always have terrible plots. They're the paperback novels, so to speak. They're the trash. They're your Tom Clancy novels. And I'm not saying Tom Clancy is a terrible writer, but you know, they're cheap and they're fast and they're something marketable and that's all they are. Deus Ex Human Revolution, as awesome of a story as it is, I don't think that's a perfect game either. The graphics for that were kind of all over the place. The facial models were a little bit chunky and at launch that game also had a ton of loading problems. But getting back to your story question, I totally get what you're saying, and I have always wanted to see video games become one of the greatest ways to tell stories. You know, books are obviously always going to be the best, but I wanted video games to actually surpass movies and TV, and I think we're getting there. But there's, just like books, movies, and TVs, there's different levels of writing that you put up with. There's the super deep stuff that very few people actually go see, but then they're critically acclaimed because they're super deep. And then there's the less super deep, but still deep-ish, that might actually get serial interpretations, like the Mass Effect series. And, you didn't mention it on here, but I actually feel that the first couple of Assassin's Creed games actually had really good writing in them. Revelations could have just been thrown out the window. Actually, you could have taken Brotherhood and Revelations and kind of combined those together to create a better game. But no, I don't think people push forward with stories anymore. It's sad to say, but I think that we were telling better stories in the 16-bit generation. In the 16-bit generation and at the very beginning of the 3D generation, so like the PlayStation 1 and the N64 era, I think we were telling better stories back then. I really think that in a lot of ways we told a lot of really great stories back then, and then we kind of stopped trying. I think that it's not just Call of Duty and it's not just Battlefield and Skyrim that kind of got into these terrible storytelling habits. I think JRPGs got into a really bad storytelling habit as well. Ever since, I want to say Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy IX, it seems like that the JRPG genre has just been cranked out. Just throw in androgynous male A, helpless female B, throw in the kingdom that's being overthrown by the evil empire, and there's your story. I've hated that. JRPGs could have been so much more. JRPGs at a time were actually my favorite types of video games. I was a huge JRPG fan, but I've fallen so far out of love with them, it's not even funny, because they've fallen to sloppy writing, and because they've fallen to just cheap character models and everything like that. So it's not just your blockbustery stuff. The games that should have been really story focused have fallen out of focus with their stories. There are some other games, though, that you probably shouldn't discount right away in terms of their story. I think Grand Theft Auto 4 is surprisingly deep. And I'm not talking about with the expansions, though the expansions for that were really good. But Grand Theft Auto 4 was actually a pretty good storyline for a game that, for all intents and purposes, most people would have written off as just there for the ultra-violence sake and, to run people over with your cars and cause havoc in the city. I think that I think there's an awesome dichotomy there, that here's this game where you can do absolutely almost anything that you want in the city, and you can be almost as violent as you want to be, but then it also has one of the better stories of that year. I'm trying to think of other games that actually had decent stories. Fallout New Vegas had a pretty decent-ish story. Decent-ish, not wonderful. And Skyrim, I remember in my video review that I actually praised the story for that. And thinking back, I don't think I would retake my opinion on it. I still think that it actually has a decent story, and I think that Oblivion's story was probably better. I think that Morrowind's story was way better. But I think my biggest thing with Skyrim in terms of their stories go, I hated the Dark Brotherhood storyline in that. The Dark Brotherhood storyline should have been so cool, but it just felt so cheap and kind of slapped together. So I get what you're saying, the slap together thing. But I really don't know how to counter that, man. Yeah, I do feel that storytelling is getting lazy in video games. But we kind of go through these fits and spurts where we have these great games that kind of revolutionize how we tell stories, or we have these great games that they revolutionize how we actually play games, like, some, like, take Bullet Time, for instance. Bullet Time actually was a big game changer. Recharging health was a big game changer. Save points, believe it or not, was a big game changer as well. But I don't know. Maybe we're up for a big game changer in the way we tell stories again. I'm thinking to like Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain was decent-ish, But I bought it, and now that I played it, I don't think I can go back and ever play it again, now that I know who the killer was. So there was a pretty interesting way to tell stories, but as I thought back, so much of the story didn't make sense to me. Like, there were too many weird plot holes in that. But I don't know, man. I'm hopeful. I think that there's a lot of talented people that really want to get into video games, but I think that if you're going to want to find more interesting stories, I think you're probably going to have to look to non-AAA experiences, to be honest with you. Because you need to look at AAA games as summer blockbusters. The chances of you getting just a awesome story out of a summer blockbuster are becoming thinner and thinner. You need to start looking towards the art house games. You need to start looking towards the indie games. You need to start looking towards the non-paperback, non-trashy novel type video games. And unfortunately, that seems to be the natural evolution of all media. If you want good music, you're not going to go to the pop stations. You're going to go to the to the subgenre stations, or you're going to go to stations that will play more independent artists. So I guess it's all really where you want to look. If you want to find good stories, you don't go to the AAA games. But anyway, thanks for the emails, guys. I really do appreciate it. Sorry if I'm rambling a little bit. It's pretty late for me, and I'm slamming coffee here because I'm just trying to get this video review done. Thanks everybody for your constant support. Really appreciate it. By the way, if you had any questions about what the game was in the background, going to be showing some more Krater footage because I'm actually trying to wrap up that game so I can write the review for that. And any comments or questions, please feel free to send them to info@eldergeek.com. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Twitch TV, where Michael and Shen have been streaming pretty regularly. And that should do it. Everybody, have a wonderful weekend. I truly mean that. And keep an eye out for hopefully multiple reviews from us this weekend, or at least multiple videos from us this weekend. Take care, everybody. I'll talk to you all on Monday.